Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, so have you ever done this? You look back at someone you were involved with, maybe a relationship, maybe just a connection, and you just think, why on earth did I romanticize them so much? Like, you see it clearly now. They were, frankly, not great for you, maybe even actively unhealthy.
Oh, absolutely. It's almost universal, that feeling. And yet, even knowing that, your brain somehow keeps playing the highlight reel, right? All those rose-tinted memories.
Exactly. It feels like this chaotic reckoning inside your own head.
Yeah.
You're juggling these two completely different versions of reality.
hmm It's a really stark disconnect, isn't it, between how you see it now with clear eyes and how you perceived them back then. Our sources suggest it's not just, forgetting the bad parts. It almost feels like your past self was working with totally different information, like some kind of cognitive dissonance compared to who you are now.
Right. Because my brain, seriously, it seems to have this superpower for just erasing the red flags.
Yeah.
Poof, gone. But it holds on to that one time they looked at you like you were, I don't know, the sun. And suddenly all the arguments, the disappointments, they just kind of fade out.
Yeah, that selective memory thing is powerful. But it's more than just selecting, isn't it? What's the brain actually doing when it seems to edit out the difficult stuff?
That's what I want to get into.
Well, it's definitely more active than just like passive forgetting. The sources we looked at, especially the ones on cognitive psychology, they talk about these strong biases, like confirmation bias. That's a big one. Your brain is actively looking for stuff that confirms what you already believe or maybe wanted to believe back then about that person being wonderful.
Okay, so it finds the evidence for the good story.
Right. And at the same time, there's something called motivated reasoning. We sort of subconsciously twist information so we can keep hold of a story we like or, protect our feelings even if the facts don't really fit. That's how those few good moments get blown up and the obvious problems get, well, minimized, pushed aside.
Wow. So we're not just misremembering, we're actively building a version of the past
Yeah.
that suits us better emotionally, which explains that feeling,
Yeah.
where you thought you were madly in love, but later you realize, actually, I think I was just in love with the idea I had of them.
Precisely.
So, okay, our mission today for this deep dive is to really unpack this whole thing. We'll use the insights from our sources to figure out why we do this, why we romanticize people who aren't right for us, and maybe how to get a clearer view.
And what's really interesting there, building on that motivated reasoning idea, is how easy it is to remember someone based on, like, who they could have been, their potential. Some of the sources, especially around attachment theory, really hit on this. We fall for the potential, not always the person who's actually, standing right there. There's this one study we saw detailing how people, especially if they have certain attachment styles, they just kind of project these ideal qualities onto a partner. They build this whole future fantasy.
And that fantasy just overrides what's actually happening day to day.
Yeah, it can.
It's like your brain literally rewrites the script. That's fascinating. So you remember the, 3 amazing moments, the sparks, and you somehow just gloss over the 30 times they were flaky or unkind or whatever. It's almost like a kind of self-deception, isn't it?
It really can be. And that leads to something pretty profound that a lot of the sources mention. But you might not actually miss them. Not the whole real person. You miss the fantasy version you created. Or maybe just how they made you feel in those few really specific good moments.
So were we in love with them or just in love with feeling seen, maybe? Even if it was through their very foggy lens.
That's a really important question to ask yourself.
Yeah. And when you connect that idea to the bigger picture, it starts to make sense why we ignore stuff that seems so obvious later. We've all been there, right? That little voice inside saying, this probably isn't going to work, but you just keep going anyway, like something's pulling you along.
And the sources definitely give us clues about that pull. Sometimes it's the sunk cost fallacy. You think, well, I've already put so much time and energy into this.
I can't stop now. Yeah.
Exactly. Or your friends might be gently trying to hint at things, but you're just convinced, no, you don't understand them. If I just love them a bit more or differently, they'll become that person I see inside.
Oh, God, the I can fix them phase. We've all read that chapter, haven't we?
It's classic.
It's tough to look back on that without cringing sometimes. Like, remembering how you'd interpret, I don't know, them texting you randomly at 2 a.m. as, like, proof of some deep, soulful connection.
Yeah.
Instead of just a 2 a.m. text. Yeah.
Yeah.
We make these huge leaps of faith that, looking back, feel more like leaps of, well, delusion.
And that pattern, being drawn to that inconsistency, that unpredictability, it brings us to maybe a deeper why that came up in the sources. Sometimes a key reason we end up romanticizing the quote-unquote wrong people, especially the ones who bring drama, is because, well, if you haven't consistently experienced stable, healthy love, you can actually end up romanticizing chaos.
Probably.
Yeah, we can mistake those intense emotional swings, the highs and lows, for genuine passion or deep connection. It's powerful and often kind of misunderstood.
So it's not just about taste, it's almost like a learned association.
You got it. The sources get into the neurochemistry even.
Mm.
Those unpredictable highs and lows, the whole will they, won't they thing.
Yeah.
It can give you these big dopamine hits. It's a form of intermittent reinforcement, like in behavioral psych. Your brain can easily misread that chemical rush as excitement or real passion instead of, stability. And that makes it a really tough cycle to break because it feels reinforcing. It's why we sometimes cling to emotional crumbs if that's what you're used to or what your brain's been kind of trained to look for.
So it might not even be that we genuinely want that specific person. Sometimes maybe we just desperately want the feeling, the validation, or that intense hit we're used to. Or maybe the one we missed out on earlier.
That can definitely be part of it. And zooming out even further, things like loneliness or low self-worth, they make it so much easier to convince yourself that any connection is better than being alone, even one that's actually hurting you. The sources really stress that the hardest part often isn't letting go of the actual person. It's letting go of that fantasy you built and the patterns that kept it going. It takes a big shift in how you see yourself and what you think you deserve.
Okay, so what does this mean for actually moving forward? The sources mention this idea of a recovery era. What does that look like?
Yeah, it's about that slow, sometimes difficult process of unlearning those old habits, those attachments, those ways of thinking, the biases we talked about. It means learning to see things and people clearly, objectively, not through that romantic haze all the time.
Which leads to a really crucial point for growth, right? Just because someone made you feel something intensely, even something really memorable,
Yeah.
that doesn't automatically mean it was love or that it was good for you.
Exactly. It's about dismantling that narrative that tells you, turn your pain into poetry. Recognizing the pull of drama for what it is, not what you hoped it might be.
I like that shift in perspective. It's about consciously choosing peace, choosing calm over all that drama. It's about wanting a love that feels like safety, like coming home, not like a constant state of suspense or walking on eggshells. Yeah. And a big part of that has to be looking back at those past things with real honesty, doesn't it? Not just nostalgia.
Absolutely, because real healing ultimately isn't always about hating the person or even forgetting them entirely. It's about seeing them clearly who they actually were, what the relationship truly was. And then from that place of clarity, making that conscious, empowered choice to put yourself and your own well-being first, ahead of the fantasy.
Wow. Okay, this has been quite the journey, this deep dive. We've really unpacked how easily we fall into that trap, romanticizing people who weren't right. We looked at the cognitive biases, the emotional patterns, how we get so good at ignoring red flags, and the reasons underneath it all.
And that core realization, the one that echoed through so many sources, it's pretty profound. Often you weren't actually in love with them. You were in love with the story you wrote about them, or that fantasy version that really only existed in your head. As one source put it so well, I don't think I was ever in love with them. I think I was in love with the story.
And once you can finally truly put that book down, the way forward seems a lot clearer. It's about living those recovery era principles we talked about, choosing peace instead of drama, wanting love that feels like safety, not suspense. It's such a deliberate shift from that old pattern of turning pain into art or something.
Which leaves us with a really compelling thought to sit with from the sources, that deep desire to forget what it feels like to bleed for someone who never even brought a Band-Aid. So as you reflect on your own stuff, maybe ask yourself, what is the real difference between that chaotic intensity and a quiet, calm kind of love?
Yeah. And what does that difference really mean for the kind of healthy, sustainable connections you want to build from here on out? Looking at your own patterns with honesty, not nostalgia. That maybe is the deepest dive of all.